Well, hello, venters. Guys, about 20 years ago, me and my wife at the time started watching ESPN, and they were playing the World Series of Poker. Anyway, me and my wife both fell absolutely in love with poker. Now, at that time, we had a couple of Arizona casinos that you could choose from to play poker, and we would go there and play cards with friends. But then what we did was, at the end of each year, we would try to make plans to go out to Vegas to play cards there as well. And it was really fun to do. Well, if you fast forward a handful of years, now Arizona, at least the Phoenix area, has a handful of casinos in each and every direction. So there's really no need to go to Las Vegas to play cards. There's just too much action here locally. Also, there's online gambling. A lot of people do these fantasy sports leagues, right? FanDuel and what have you. So if you ever want to make a bet, you no longer need to have a bookie or know somebody in Vegas. You can easily do it right on your cell phone. From what I understand, in Las Vegas over the past couple of months, they've really had a downturn in tourists coming. Apparently, 1 out of every 5 people on the Strip, believe it or not, is international tourist. And 1 out of every 5 international tourists is from Canada. And Canadians aren't coming to Las Vegas. Part of it is because Trump was saying that they were going to become the 51st state. Part of it is because Trump said that Canada doesn't do anything for us. But I think the real big part is just the fact that Las Vegas has resort fees that are just atrocious.
MGM Resorts now charges guests ordering room service for silverware, glassware, and cloth napkins, according to Vital Vegas. So now, say at Bellagio, they give you 2 room service options. There is takeout service, a new required $10 added to the room charge for getting your food delivered in takeout boxes with plastic lids. And then there is classic service. For $25, you get your food delivered as it always was: silverware, plates, glasses, and cloth napkins.
Back in the back in the mid-1990s, when I went to Vegas, it was famous for having really excellent buffets that were next to nothing. I've never been a big drinker, but if you were there playing money on the machines, they would actually have people walking around to give you free drinks, free beer and free soda. I think you can still get free soda, but I don't think they give out free beer anymore. But if you've been to Vegas lately and you know I'm wrong, let me know. So now think about it. Fast forward, a person can do a sports bet from their phone. A person can go down to their local casino to play a card game or to have fun playing slot machines, right? We've got online gambling. The weather is like 110 degrees this time in Vegas. And on top of that, everyone's broke. And I think when you add all that together, it's a recipe for disaster when it comes to tourism.
How crazy is this? I'm in Vegas. I just had breakfast, and they're saying that 20% of a $141 check is $40. This is how they scam you in Vegas. Next time you come here, make sure that you look at your receipts. Always check the receipts.
So I don't know if you've seen some of these videos where they're showing the Strip at various times of the day and night, but where you're used to seeing it absolutely packed with people, now there are moments where it's absolutely empty and looks kind of like a ghost town. It really reminds me of malls. Do you guys remember back in the day, on any given weekend, the mall would be packed with people of all ages? Now, if you go to the mall, there are certain days where it doesn't look like anybody's in there at all. And even when there are people in the mall, a lot of times people aren't really shopping. So I wanted to hear what you guys thought about this. They were talking to a guy named Sebastian Espinosa. He's an on-call busser. Now, I'm not 100% sure. Is a busser the same as a busboy? And the reason I ask this is if he's an on-call guy, It sounds to me like on any given night, if a restaurant's busy and needs him, he can be there, simply by giving him a call. Well, apparently he's trying to look for another job because with the lack of tourists, there's just nobody to actually go to the restaurants so he can make tips and stuff. So it's really, really cramping his style. And because tourism's down in general, there's not really a lot of places that are hiring. So you got this really weird situation where people aren't going to the Strip, they're not gambling, the casinos are pulling back and laying off workers, and it's just kind of a smorgasbord that's showing us what the country's going through, via Vegas. Vegas is kind of like a way to tell if the rest of the country is doing well economically.
There is a hotel in Las Vegas that sells a small bottle of water for $26. Can you believe that?
So if you were to Google Jesse Jameson World Series of Poker, you would actually see that back in 06, 07, and 08, I actually played in the World Series of Poker tournament. I'm a part of history, so to speak, because I was lucky enough to make the money. Now keep in mind, this was darn near 20 years ago. But part of the reason that I went there wasn't just because I wanted to be the next Chris Moneymaker. It was because it was actually affordable to go. If you went and did the tournament, your room was next to nothing. They gave you like $100 voucher for meals, and you really felt special while you were playing. Were you playing something expensive? Yeah, it was super duper expensive. And no, I didn't play the main event. I played some of the side games that they have. Anyway, make a long story short, now it makes zero sense for me just to pick up on a whim and go to Vegas to play a card game, because now you got exorbitant resort fees. Just to stay up there is an arm and a leg. Those buffets that were cheap back in the day, guys, those things are expensive now. There is no benefit to an all-you-can-eat buffet. All you're going to do is get fat, and it's going to make your wallet shrink while it's making your belt expand, right? And so I want to know if any of you are in the same position I am. If you love putting a bet on the Super Bowl or something, you can do that without leaving your house. If you want to feel what it's like to be inside a casino, there's probably a good chance that you have Indian casinos in your state just like I do. And when you're in any casino, I don't care what anybody says, they all feel the same on the inside, at least to me. So what are you saying, Mr. Jameson? What I'm saying, Mala, Sean, and company, is that if you think about it, I don't see how Vegas is ever gonna make a comeback. Even if all of a sudden everybody had a bunch of money, the real reason Vegas is starting to lose people is because everybody else no longer needs to gamble there in Vegas. And I know it's been this way for a while, but maybe all you needed for it to show was just, high prices, people having less money. All of a sudden, instead of going on vacations, half the people are probably having staycations. So let's talk about this Trump thing. Even if Trump wanted you to be the 51st state, no one would really want it. Number one, the Democrats would fight it tooth and nail because they always dislike Trump. And no Republicans would want Canada to be the 51st state because then we would always have a Democratic president. So I don't even think you have to worry about that. And if you were a 51st state, it's not like you would be the 51st state of Nazi Germany. We're practically the same country, in my opinion. Tell me you venters agree. Canada and the US might as well be the same country. With that being said, nobody wants you to be the 51st state in reality. And number two, even though Donald Trump says we don't really need you, it doesn't mean that we don't want you. So quit using that as an excuse. To be honest with you, if I wanted to go to Vegas and I didn't like the president, I wouldn't let that stop me, would you? At KipBurt67 says, I'm done with it all, Jesse. I started hiking and reading more. I gave up golf and fishing because it costs too much. I would think fishing would be free. Isn't fishing free? And I mean, I'm sure that there's certain, payment or certain monies that you have to invest for permits and stuff, but I was always under the impression fishing is one of the more cheap hobbies you can have, but I suppose I could be wrong. I don't fish very often. I also stopped eating out. Restaurants have nasty customer service, and the service sucks, so I'm done. That's another thing that's interesting. It seems like the food portions aren't quite what they used to be. The service has gone to hell. The prices are sky high. They want you to tip through the moon, right? And then I don't know about you, but when they turn that darn register around asking for a tip, I feel like if I put 0, they're gonna spit in my food. I really wish they would take that thing out of there. It's one thing if it's a sit-down restaurant, but when you're doing it for every time you go in to buy yourself a sub sandwich, it's just really tacky. I wish companies would stop that. I don't think there's anything wrong with a human being if they don't want a tip for something that they just placed an order for. The prices are already expensive. Du Bois up to no good says, I was at a resort at Resort World yesterday for about 3 hours from 2 p.m. to 5. It was dead. The casino floor was empty. The restaurants were empty. Same with the shopping area. It was a ghost town. Eerily similar to the pandemic times. Greed has killed Vegas. Today's average 25-year-old probably has never equated Las Vegas to having really cheap yet really good food. And even when I was growing up, I can remember going to Vegas when I was just 21, and I went to this place called the Frontier, and everybody said, Jesse, they have a $3.99 buffet. But that's like the worst bottom of the line buffet, because everybody had a buffet back then and they were all good and they were all reasonably priced. But again, Frontier had this buffet all you can eat for $3.99. This was like back in 1996, just to give you an idea. And we went in there and we ate, and I'm telling you, that was the best $3.99 meal I've ever had in my life. And now if you go, that same Frontier meal is probably $19.99. It's probably still the cheapest, and that's if Frontier even exists anymore. But like I said, I'd be willing to bet young people have no idea how good and inexpensive that buffet used to be. And I'd be willing to bet that young people probably don't remember what it was like to get free beer while you were gambling. And when that happens, inevitably young people say, wow, that's crazy. You can charge $5 or $6 a beer. Why do they give it for free? Because that same beer that they would give you for $5, right? They'd give it to you for free. That would make you put $200 or $300 in their slot machines. So it made sense. But we didn't look at it as a strategy to pull money out of our pockets. We looked at it as in, wow, that's really good hospitality. This is why I want to go to Vegas once or twice a year, every single year. But again, greed makes it where you don't want to do the extra special thing. The last time I went to Vegas, it was actually cheaper for me to get an Airbnb. So I ended up renting this little place, and I ended up really enjoying it a lot more because it wasn't super expensive just because it happened to be in the Luxor or in the, whatever, name a casino. I remember when I was real young, me and my wife went to Circus. It's so funny because people say, oh my God, that's such a dangerous part of the Strip. We didn't even know any better. We went to the Cannery. Oh my God.
Can you believe that?
Talk about the wrong side of the Strip. I liked the Cannery. They had $1 and $2 tables. You could play $1 and $2 limit poker. I loved the Cannery. At least back then, I was okay with North Las Vegas. I don't think I would go to North Las Vegas nowadays. Marron98 says, Vegas destroyed itself by grinding every single penny out of you. Kind of feels like the world is run by Las Vegas nowadays, doesn't it? Everything is designed to get you. The other day, I paid $5 or $6 for Peacock. And I did it so I could watch a football game. When I say the other day, it was like a year ago. I did it because I wanted to watch a Kansas City football game, and then I canceled Peacock like a month later. Everything they charge us nowadays, guys, $5 here or $10 there. It's literally designed to take every single penny. And then you've got these pay-as-you-go food services, so no matter how broke you are, you can always make 1/4 of a payment somewhere. It's absolutely absurd. I wish we were all rich. Don't you wish we could all just experience what it's like to have money, you know? If we all had money, then these things wouldn't bum us out so much. But man, when you're hard up for cash, living paycheck to paycheck, and every single thing keeps going up and up, it really, really makes you feel hopeless. Poliaha says the Sahara Hotel about 5 years ago was listed for $60 a night. But my final bill was more than 2 times that because of the resort fees. When they charge you some $25 a night resort fee and this, that, and the other, that is such a scam. And then by the time you get your final bill, there's taxes and everything on top of it. It's enough to sour you. When you go out somewhere, you want to enjoy yourself. This is why I get pissed at Disney too. Disney sits there and puts commercials and toys out for the world to see because they want people to grow up and be a Disney family. But in order to go to Disneyland or Disney World, you have to be willing to spend $3 or $4 or $5 grand. And it just seems really cruel because you're making it where the only people that can enjoy Disney are the rich. My handle, Trey3, says, Canadian here. We will never be the 51st state. Your president said that you don't need anything from Canada, and that includes Canadians. We will go and visit people that want to be our friends and respect each other. Good luck with that. You know, I got to be honest with you. I don't think the average American gives 2 shits if you're in our country, Mr. Canadian. If you want to come to America, you're going to come regardless of what the president says. So again, if we want to play stupid ass, like we're going to let somebody that says he wants to make us the 51st state, if we're going to pretend like that's the reason we don't come, then you can keep playing in your little playland. But just remember, Canada ain't shit. You're only special because you're actually parked next to America in the first place. I'm halfway joking. I love Americans. But what I don't like is that everybody, including Canadians, wants to blame everything on the Orange Man now. How about this? You're not visiting Vegas because you're kind of broke this year. Let's keep it real. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and walking with me. It really is miserable hot in Arizona. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.